Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where the room is orange! I haven't had like a light on during a video for a while. I've been doing these during the day, but I decided that we're going to be doing this final list, kind of celebrating a few of the songs that I really liked this year, 30 of them, really, I guess more than a few, before the New Year switches over, so I kind of have to be on top of shit right now. I'm kind of rushing this video out, but I don't want it to be any less sentimental in any way or important, I guess, because I genuinely just want to celebrate the new year with you guys. I know because of the world situation right now, a lot of us are going to be chilling alone for the New Year's, and that's kind of sad, but hey, let's cheers to a much better 2021. It's so depressing that I don't have alcohol for this. And let's talk about some great fucking music that came out this year, which was one of the saving graces of this year, you know? I mean, if this year would have had music that was as devoid of life as this entire year was devoid of any kind of good anything, then it truly would have been a lot more terrible than it was. I do want to give a couple honorable mentions before we get into the list. The first one being the song Rough 7 by JPEG Mafia, a really good track, and one that I thought was extremely creative and actually like really weird, but it didn't quite make it on the list because it was from the same album cycle as his EP, and I did prefer one other track. I do totally recommend giving this one a try though, and like giving it a try with a very open mind because it's very strange. I really like the feature on that track as well, and she does dominate a lot of it. The second honorable mention I want to give is 100 gecs for Sympathy for the Grinch, a really great track, and one that is just about as chaotic as the year itself has been. It totally makes sense that this is the kind of Christmas song that we received this year, and damn, it is by far my favorite one. This is an absolute bop, alright? It's a totally different take on a Christmas song than we've ever really seen in the past before either. Now is a great time to mention to you that I do take off this hoodie. It just hasn't happened, because the next pick I have up here is She Couldn't by Linkin Park. Now, I couldn't really include this on the list just because it was actually more so released in 1999. We've got a whole 21 years of this song existing to some capacity. It was only released as a commercial release this year, though, for the 20th anniversary of Hybrid Theory, as it happened. Actually, it may have been a 1998 track. Either way, I like it a lot, and I really like what they did with the remaster on all of these old Linkin Park demos that they did. This was a great one. Woo! Coming in at number 30, it's Zilkami, Sauce Mula, City Morgue with the track A-Cab. It's kind of depressing how relevant a song basically saying fuck the police was this year. However, it was, and I definitely feel the energy on this one. This has NASCAR Aloe on it, who is big crackhead energy, kind of matching Zilkami's similar aggression on this track. It is just so fucking pumped up. Really great song for the protests. I'm not really sure if it was used very much in that context, but it relates to it very much, and I appreciate the enthusiasm here, especially. Number 29, Nothing Nowhere with his new song, Death. I scare myself to death is kind of the hashtag that was floating around. I definitely was feeling the energy of this song too. This does kind of give you the feeling of all of the crazy thoughts and paranoia we were all having in this hectic year. At least that's what I'm kind of getting from it. But either way, the way that he's kind of bringing back some like new metal sounds, that's super cool. You know, I'm very nostalgic for that kind of shit. I think the production and the very energetic performance on this one is really pretty top notch. Next song on here, we have the Black Dresses cover of 800 Decibel Cloud by 100 gecs called 888 Decibel Cloud, pushing it just 88 further. This is fucking insanity, dude. This track is crazy. It's full of just some like wild samples, including like the Heretic anthem from Slipknot. You know I immediately recognized that. And it does pretty much just only take the same lyrics from the 100 gecs song. Everything else is just crushingly heavy electronics, and definitely taking some of that metal influence that they had on their final record as well. Number 27 is 21 Savage and Metro Boomin with Runnin', 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 right into number 26, a song that kind of defined 2020 in its like meme culture, I guess, which was The Box by Roddy Ricch. Now this guy's ad-libs sound like a creaking door, but it is my favorite creaking door that's ever happened. I really love that creative ad-lib. It's super cool. That's definitely one of my favorite parts of this song, but the flow and the lyrics behind it were pretty cool as well. It's kind of a track that blew up that I just really enjoyed, and I can say that totally honestly, definitely one of the best songs out there that was popular this year, even if it was kind of a meme. One that definitely was a little bit more undiscovered and totally in the other realm was Brockhampton with NST. They had this super low-key set of releases this year, these singles that just kind of evaporated into thin air. They even had like a collaboration with JPEG Mafia. They really were kind of breaking some new ground and then just kind of wiped it all, purged it from the internet. It still exists out there, and like I was saying in my EPs of the year video, some people have kind of taken all of these singles that they put out, made them transition really well into each other, tried to clean up some of the production here and there a little bit when they could, and made a really solid project out of what they had. But this had one of my favorite moments in all of music this year, and that is when Bareface's verse actually starts on this track. Amazing moment. Number 24 is Ya by Mario Judah. His impression, I guess you could say, of Playboy Cardi, because he was getting really tired of Cardi not dropping a whole lot of red. He got him to do it though, which was really cool. And I'm doing some things off camera here, which is why my face is so close. Sorry about that. I wouldn't want to curse you with such a thing. However, yeah, this track was really well imitating the energetic Playboy Cardi songs. Some really good tracks that Playboy Cardi has put out before sound exactly like this one. The production absolutely bangs on this track, and just that baby voice flow that is somehow so appealing. Just great stuff on this track. Number 23, Diet by Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats on their collaborative EP that they put out this year, Unlocked. My second place EP for the year. Had some really great production, all bangers, front to back bangers on this record. I really did enjoy it a lot, but Diet was definitely one of the best ones on it. You know what to expect from Kenny Beats and Denzel Curry. If you haven't listened to this project yet, just kind of combine those styles together and you now have exactly what you were going to get. Arca KLK is from a record that I didn't have a huge amount of enthusiasm like some people did towards it. However, I did like that new record. I was positive on it, but I was definitely most positive towards this single KLK featuring Rosalia, who has this just hypnotizing vocal run through the chorus, the refrain, I guess, more so of this track. It's got some extremely weird, cool sounding production on it. I really love the pitch shifted vocals on here, but Rosalia really makes the track. I do want to push that. She has such an amazing voice. Number 21 is somebody that I really want to be at the forefront of people's attention a little bit more. St. John. I fucking loved his project last year, Ghetto Lenny's Love Songs. I still replay that album constantly when I'm just looking for some vibe music to turn on because it's so good for that. It is just such a wonderful project overall. However, I didn't necessarily like the new album that this track fell on, but if you're going to listen to anything from that record, this one is 110 fucking % worth your time. This is absolutely just a bop of a rap song, dude. Total banger alert on here, alright? The flow that St. John presents on here just rolls into your ears in this energizing kind of way. It's got this beat that you're so easily able to just nod your head along to. It just goes hard as fuck, alright? That's all there is to it. And St. John usually does. Unfortunately, like I said, his new record was a little bit of a miss, but this song alone makes that record worth existing. Another very interesting track, one that I wasn't necessarily expecting, was Caliuchis and Rico Nasty with their newer song Aqui Yo Mando, I believe is how you pronounce that anyways. Really kind of dominant, hard hitting, gritty song in comparison to everything else on this kind of smooth album. This one's just kind of like freaky. It's a little bit more nocturnal. It's a little bit more bass heavy. It just kind of bangs though. It's got that like dirty electronic sound to it. Rico Nasty does great on here, and I do like Caliuchis' performance all across her new record, but this one in particular, very catchy. The fact that I get a song stuck in my head that's in a different language entirely is pretty impressive. Next up, we have one of my favorite bands of all time, System of a Down, one of the bands that really got me into music. I'm going to give it to one of two of their new singles. It's an A-side and a B-side anyways, but I'm going to be giving it to Protect the Land. This one sounded the furthest away from their old sound out of the two, as the B-side to this track more so sounded like some of their like Mesmerize era stuff, coming together for a very important political movement that they're trying to push in their home country of Armenia. They are trying to spread awareness to what is going on over there, as they really always have been, and they made this relentless fucking track. This is more thrashy than pretty much anything they've ever done. Really great vocal performances on here, and really great guitar work on here as well that I definitely want to give some credit to. I also want to give some credit to Rico Nasty, who we actually saw a little while ago on a feature very recently, but her new track iPhone, produced by Dylan Brady of 100 gecs fame. This instrumental very much so sounds like a gecs song, which is exactly what I shoot for. I mean, I love that in music. If you are doing that, you are doing some great things in my book. But of course, the dude who does produce 100 gecs music is going to sound like himself when he produces a song. I suppose that's kind of a given, and I suppose I'm on a bit of a tangent here, because Rico's performance is something that's very important on here. Her lyricism is really funny, really clever. I love the gas mask gas kind of double entendre thing going on here. That line was super clever and I loved it. But I just overall really love how hard her performance goes on here. Super killer flow on that hook. Delicious track. Just love it a lot. Next up is somebody who, much like St. John, I wish more people were paying attention to, that being Aries, former YouTube producer, I guess. He made a lot of instructional videos back in the day, but recently in 2018, I believe, is more when he shifted into having a music-based career where he's putting out songs, and I loved his album that he put out, Welcome Home, so much. That is my favorite emo rap album of all time, and that is certainly a genre that I was pretty head over heels for at one point or another. But his new song, Fool's Gold, it's not his newest. He put out one more single that I didn't like quite as much, but still really like in between now and then. But this song, again, it's just such a banger, man. It goes so hard. The flow on here, really killer, and he has this video breaking down just how complicated this beat is, and it doesn't necessarily sound as complex and sound as if it has so many moving parts when you're just listening to the song, but when he really breaks it down, it's very obvious. Like, there are so many things going on in this beat at once that make it sound as cool as it does. And another thing that sounds really, really cool is Charlie XCX with Claws, another song produced by Dylan Brady of 100 gecs. So basically, I just have two 100 gecs instrumentals on here because, once again, he is not out of his element in any way, shape, or form. He has been pretty much the most, big and prolific, maybe outside of A.G. Cook, producer in the hyperpop scene, and the way that he produced for Charlie XCX on this song Claws made for a total fucking bop, all right? The more Charlie gets experimental as her career goes on, the more the songs just hit heavier and heavier every single time. I still remember the first time I heard that dirty bass on the song Klk, and it just kind of blew my mind. Well, her new record is pretty much that moment on that moment for like 10 songs at least of the track list. Actually, I can't remember how many songs are on the track list, so it may only be 10. But either way, this production duo going on is really, really nice. Love this song a lot. Perfect track for Charlie to do her thing over. And Clipping gets the next spot. Now, I do want to mention, now that we're kind of getting into these higher spots, there's a lot of records that came out this year that I really loved that you're not going to see a appearance for one of its singles on here. And now, if that happens, just assume that basically I liked the album a lot, but piecing it out wasn't as good of an experience for me. And I was also far more keen on the idea of giving mentions to things that I haven't already given mentions to. But some tracks, like Say the Name by Clipping, just I could not bring myself to do that for. That just wasn't happening. I could not leave Say the Name by Clipping, this incredibly spooky rap banger, out of here. Out of their new album being kind of labeled as horrorcore and the one before it, this definitely takes the most traditional horrorcore sound, as it's just some kind of steady rapping, and it even takes a classic 90s hip-hop sample. It's got kind of this clubby type beat to it. It's very bouncy in that way, and kind of psychedelic even with its mixing. I really love the hook being that Ghetto Boy sample, as I already mentioned on here. David has a weird narrative as he spins on most of these tracks, but his performance is still just incredible. Number 14 is Yves Tumor with Kerosene. Absolutely great track, and the first one that I've mentioned so far on the list that kind of took up this 80s retro vintage synth pop aesthetic that a lot of things did this year. And this was definitely part of that movement. I think it was maybe the second or third album I noticed doing that this year. Definitely one of the best songs to do it, because the singing on here is so soulful and empowered over some really nice production as well. Some really nice production also features on Amine's song Compensating, this bouncy, kind of hard, kind of chill beat. It is something so easy to get into. It's just a very fun, enjoyable track overall. I love Amine's very smooth, charismatic performance all over this track, but the Young Thug feature is certainly worth a mention. It is worth a mention and a half and another half of a mention, because this is one of the most interesting things I think he's ever done. Young Thug does this kind of like falsetto thing. It reminds me of that terrible failure of a Future verse, except good. We all remember when Future did the song with Kendrick Lamar and J-Rock for the Black Panther soundtrack, and he kind of ruined the track. I think that same energy, how you usually have kind of a auto crooner trap rapper doing like a falsetto sort of thing almost, except Young Thug makes the fucking track. It works here. Next up we got Just, with a $, of course, by Run the Jewels. Now here's another one again, and there are more of them as the list goes up a little bit, that was from a record that I enjoyed a ton. Now, if The Ground Below was a single, which it only was in the remix capacity, which although that was a cool remix, I didn't enjoy quite as much, that would have probably been much higher on the list, because that was my favorite song that I heard this year. So I do definitely want to give a big mention to The Ground Below, but Just was almost as good of a song, surprisingly, and it's one of my favorite rap songs of the year, no doubt about it. The political and social commentary about money and corruption that goes on here is crazy good, and the really great pairing that Run the Jewels and Zach De La Rocha is once again featured on here, as he's been on I think all but one of their albums at this point. Every time they collaborate, they make a very hard-hitting track, and it is some energy that is matched very, very well between the two of them. That is no exception on this track. Very good production on here as well. Do want to give a shout out to that. Another song with some very good production is Juice WRLD, a tragic song called Righteous, and it was so sad for me to see his passing last year, as I was really into his music, and I kind of followed everything that he did at that time. That fucking broke my heart, man. And hearing him talk after his passing about the things that he is and how he feels in this angelic kind of way, especially with the way this track was produced and put together with so much care. It's so chilling. This is definitely one of the saddest songs of the year for sure. A very tasteful posthumous single. And even if I can't necessarily say that for that much of his posthumous album, in which I feel like was really loaded up with filler, this definitely isn't any filler, okay? This is a very, very nicely executed track, and I feel like it takes most of the things that he would have wanted for this song. Yeah, that one really cut deep. It really did. On a far more lighthearted note, though, brightening the mood ever so slightly. Of course, R.I.P. Juice WRLD. Just want to put that out there real quick. But far, far brighter note is Dragon Ball Do-Rag by Thundercat. Oh my god, man. This track is so much fun. It is a smooth R&B bop that has me constantly returning. The song comes across like this super nerdy guy who's still trying to get some lovin', asking if he looks good in his Dragon Ball do-rag. Okay, he just wants to be accepted with the cat hair all over his clothes because he does still smell good. I can relate to that line so much. You guys know I got cats. All right. Overall, just the way that this song sounds like this smooth, sexy love song, and then when you focus a little bit more on it and realize how ridiculous it is, I just love that. I love that so much. It's such a sense of humor that relates to me personally. Number 9, we have what I would call my favorite hip-hop song of the year, even if some of the cuts could be kind of argued that way up above here. But this is going to be JPEG Mafia and Denzel Curry with Bald! Blew out the fucking microphone there. I 100% guarantee it. So, headphone warning in retrospect, I guess. But this is easily the best thing to ever come out of a receding hairline. This collaboration is exactly what you would think it is. And I suppose I did kind of say the same thing about the Kenny Beats and Denzel Curry collaboration that was lower on the list. But if you know JPEG, if you know Denzel Curry, you know that together they are going to have this aggression to make an absolute banger like this one. But it's got some funny, clever bars, and it's got this quirky but still pretty hard beat as JPEG Mafia typically serves up. This is a collaboration that I really hope to see again because both verses just panned out so damn well on this track. And while I do want to mention that the original version of Bald was a really good song, I did prefer this one. Just want to put that out there real quick. Another song that I sincerely prefer, in the bottom of my heart, I prefer this to a lot of things, is Phoebe Bridgers' song, I Know the End. Now, I almost didn't include anything from Phoebe on this list. That's just because I never listened to the songs individually, almost. But if I ever was going to, it would be this song or Kyoto, the two singles, and I did have to decide between those two as well, past even deciding if I was going to include her here, which was pretty hard. But this is definitely one of my favorite songs of the year. Even if I don't come back to it individually that much, I do just want to give it all of the credit and praise I possibly can for being one of the best closers ever, with this whole the end is near narrative thing going on that relates to the year way too much in a very eerie kind of way, and it's so climactic with some extremely uncompromising and more loud energy at the end of the track that you don't see towards the beginning of it or the beginning of the album at all. This is such a great climax track and a stunning conclusion to Punisher. One of the most infamous singles of the year is Fiona Apple's song Shamika, a great song that shows off a lot of artistry from Fiona Apple and a lot of skill as a songwriter, even as an instrumentalist, because while this song is pretty simple in its instrumental, I think that its simplicity and its stripped back nature lets Fiona's personality shine even more. Overall, the lyricism on here is really one of the best things about it, and I think that there is no room for debate on that, as she tells this narrative about someone that she met in school who said that she had potential. There's kind of like this whole running narrative, like I said again, on this track, which was really cool. It's kind of an uplifting and really positive song, but unlike a lot of uplifting and positive songs, this didn't come across to me as corny, insincere, or like overly inspirational. It was just a nice story and a nice message that I think we all kind of needed. It's a little pep talk of a song, I guess. Next up, we have one that did land on my top 5 for my Spotify most listened songs. If you tuned into the podcast for that one, that's "Bad Decisions" by The Strokes. One of my favorite Strokes songs ever, no question about it. I replayed this one so much, like I already said, and that's for very good reason, because this is one of the catchiest Strokes songs and one of the easiest ones to just have a good time with. The chorus on here is just undeniable. I mean, it's a sampled chorus, of course, but it is their own iteration of it with their own lyrics, but the way the song is structured just sticks in your head as well. I really love the commentary on here about people not really letting them go in their own direction and saying, oh, you're making bad decisions when you're doing something a little bit different, a little bit out of the ordinary. At least that's what I and a lot of other people were getting out of it, getting out of a lot of the little subtle digs at some of those people who think that they haven't done anything good since their debut. I just really love that on this song, they're just kind of saying, we're going to do whatever we want, artistically speaking, and present you with what we want to make. I think with this being one of the first Strokes albums in a very long time, this really shows off a lot of what may have been going through the artists' heads, Julian Casablanca especially, I suppose, in that downtime in between albums. At number 5, we have Mac Miller, another posthumous single on this one, Good News. I would say that this is one of the most tastefully executed singles out there at all, and I think that it definitely did a better job on an album scale than the Juice WRLD album did this year. And I give so much credit to not only this song, but the people who put together this entire Mac Miller album for doing it with so much care, handling the work that he left behind with a lot of care, compassion, and respect. This song being one of the best moments on it. It's so sad to see what was going on in his head before his passing, because you can tell that he was in a pretty rough state, and he's definitely writing from an extremely vulnerable place on this track, and it's really, really crushing, heartbreaking, and soul-altering entirely to hear someone at this vulnerable of a point, this close to their passing. Again, I want to give a ton of credit to the people who arranged this song and made it sound as beautiful as it does before it was put out. This wasn't a rushed product. They took a lot of time to put together this great track, and that's why it's landing here. But at number 4, we have Bring Me the Horizon with Parasite Eve, probably the most apocalyptical and terror-inducing track of the year that really embraced a lot of those dark feelings that we were feeling this year, much like the song that I mentioned lower on the list by Nothing Nowhere, except while that one was kind of more so taking a good hard look at the anxiety, this did take a good hard look at that, but the pandemic itself. And I really love the way that this had the perspective of, even when we're done with this, are we going to learn from it for the future? It really exposes some bitter, dark realities. So it is extremely relevant, and I dig the hell out of this track for that alone. But I also love how Bring Me the Horizon is heavy as fuck again, and it only took a global pandemic to do so. They mixed electronics and some backing vocals that were kind of ritualistic and tribal sounding in a way, in ways that they haven't necessarily done on their older metalcore with electronic infusions. So while they are doing a lot of stuff that they did in their past, this is totally a new take on it. This has some very dark, gritty electronic sounds tones, and it also has some sparkling highs at the top too. And like I said, that chilling, ominous backing vocal that goes throughout the intro of the song and just kind of leads you off into this dark abyss of a lot of heavy instrumentation as well, and some very aggressive vocal deliveries here. Either way, it's a really unique sounding song about a very relevant and dark topic, and I enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed what Bring Me the Horizon put out this year. Number 3 is Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, and the reason this ends up so high for me is, of course, because I enjoyed the track, but also because it defined good music in 2020. This is one of 2 singles that I mentioned on here that were definitely taking up that vintage 80s aesthetic, but a lot of the stuff that did come out this year that was taking up that aesthetic was really good. So, of course, Abel's song here on Blinding Lights is one of the better ones I found, but also the biggest song to do it. This is the flagship of that trend. But either way, this 80s and kind of disco synth pop infusion going on with the synthesizers and the vocal presentation on here, a lot of the production overall as well, really just makes it feel like this infectious bop that you want to kind of move to. At the same time, it has so much emotional potency behind it. I genuinely just would call this one of the best pop songs we've seen in a long time. And to a certain degree, you can say that about my number 2 pick again here, one that's kind of a little bit more vague, just like my worst singles video, but this one is a far more positive note with Joji's singles that he put out this year. Now, I do mean the 3 main lead singles from his new album, so this is kind of including Sanctuary and Run as well as Gimme Love. But Gimme Love is the track that I'm giving it to, just because this was only by a little bit my favorite one here. He came through with a lot of tracks on this new album that transcended that emo and lo-fi hip-hop genre that he had found himself into entirely, into new and uncovered ground. And on the single that I chose here, Gimme Love, the production is the thing that sets it apart from everything I've ever heard before. In the beginning of the song, he treats us to this danceable groove with this catchy refrain, very simple refrain, but very effective refrain, and some airy vocals that fill the song and fill your entire mind space while you listen to it. This song is very hypnotizing in that way, but it only becomes more hypnotizing to 10 times the amount as it did before when we have this not necessarily beat drop, but more beat lift as the song ascends into the heavens with this bright, beautiful, angelic second half of the song that puts you in another galaxy entirely. This just lifts you out of your seat. Every time I hear the payoff of this song, I just feel like I'm levitating above the clouds. Finally, we're here. We're here, guys. It's the last one on the list for 2020. It's HMLTD with Loaded. Now, I've explained before, if something was a single that came out on the album that came out in 2020, I still think it's eligible. And how fitting is it that my favorite song of 2020 was originally released in 2019? It does fall in here due to the rules that I set. HMLTD's new album was a 2020 album, and that makes this a 2020 single, at least by my own rules. But that means that it's by far my favorite because it is one of my favorite songs ever. Once I heard this track, I knew that the HMLTD album that I was listening to was going to be something special. And this being what you could call the hardest rocking song off of their new album gives me that kick that I am constantly craving from this kind of music. It has such a badass but theatrical sound to it that matches our blasphemous narrator on here. The narrative that they actually serve up here is incredibly interesting, seeming as our protagonist has sold their soul and now they kind of just have nothing to lose, so they just don't care. Leads some pretty cool places. The sound of this track is also very unique, incorporating many hard, bassy electronic elements, especially on the climax of the song following the chorus, but it also incorporates something as far away and irrelevant to that sound as some western twangy strings, all of which is featured in other places on this very eclectic eclectic album as well. But everything in between those two very dramatically different sounds that you would expect in hard rock, I guess, is kind of fit in here as well and performed incredibly well. I think that everyone doing their thing on their instruments and even the vocals on here are very cool, very unique, just leave you with such an interesting experience. This is just as creative of a track as the album it comes from, and I also just felt it to be the most satisfying listen on the entire album as well, which is why it's topping the list here. Oh, we did it. We did it! We did it. And if you're seeing this, we're through 2020. Let's toast again, people. So, I'm glad we're going out on this year on a positive note, sharing with you guys what I actually did end up really enjoying about the year. These are some of my favorite songs that I've heard, at least in recent memory. I totally urge you to check out some stuff on this list if you haven't yet, but if not, I still hope that you had a really great time watching the video, and Happy New Year's to you. Here's hoping for something much better this year, and I am very excited to hear all of the new music that this year will come with. It's also been the first year for this channel, and the birth of it happened much earlier in the year, and thank you all very much for everything that we've done all together here on this channel. I appreciate all of the support so much, and yeah, I guess that's all there is to it. I do want to announce that there's going to be a little bit of a space in between videos here, but that is only so that the first video of the year coming out for you guys is going to be more high quality, I suppose, than a lot of the other stuff that I've done in the past. We're going to be kind of revamping a lot of things on the channel here. I've got a lot of really ambitious things that I want to follow through with, and a lot of requests that I want to follow through with as well. So even if things are still a little bit crazy right now, I'm hoping that we all get it figured out in the next little while here, and things start to turn around, because I think they will. Things are looking up a little bit, and I hope that it's looking up for you as well. So that's just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I will see you in the next video.